Today, I'm going to rank picks 11 through 20 from the 2020 NBA draft class through a sports card investing tier list. What's going on, guys? Matt here, back again with another video. Before we start, make sure you do smash the like button and hit subscribe if you enjoy sports card content. And let's get into pick number 11 in Devin Vassell for the San Antonio Spurs. So for me personally, I would probably have Devin Vassell in the hold may have potential category. Again, like I said in the previous, for the top 10 picks that I did for the 2020 NBA draft class, I'm going to be a bit more lenient with these players because they're in their second season. When you're kind of getting into that third season, that's where you really have to start making some decisions in terms of whether you think they're going to be a viable option long term. But with Devin Vassell, he's actually had his role open up a little bit now because Derek White got traded to the Boston Celtics. I guess it showed a little bit of faith in what the Spurs see in Devin Vassell. And you've also got to remember that the San Antonio Spurs have been great in terms of their decisions and their drafting in the past few years. They had late first round picks in DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Keldon Johnson. Lonnie Walker was another one who was late lottery, but still a solid player. They haven't really had too many busts that I can think of on the top of my head, but they've always been quite solid. So Devin Vassell at pick number 13, I think he's going to have a great role right now with the Spurs. He's got a consistent starting spot. He's averaged 13 points since the All-Star break. He does have that. He sort of reminds me of Kawhi Leonard and Chris Middleton in a way. He's a very, very long player who can defend, but he does seem a little bit raw. So if you kind of give him a bit more time, I can see him sort of growing a little bit more. And like I said, having that trust in the Spurs front office, there could be a role for him more in the short-term category for investing, but. Yeah, for me, I'd probably more hold him. I don't think I'd be buying him up personally. He does average just under 9 points per game at the moment. So yeah, it will be very interesting to see his growth in the near future. Pick number 12, I do have Tyrese Halliburton. And for me personally, I will have him in the invest now long-term category. He is my favorite player from this draft class in terms of value. People talk about Lamelo Ball and Anthony Edwards, but he doesn't have the inflated price of those two players, but I feel like he can reach the potential of those two players as well. The only thing with Tyrese Halliburton that I feel like that is a little bit of a risk right now is he does need to be the sole ball handler for his team. He first had issues with De'Aaron Fox at the Sacramento Kings, and now he's having those same issues with Malcolm Brogdon. Whether they get rid of Malcolm Brogdon in the offseason, I think they will get rid of him. Malcolm Brogdon is 28, 29 years old, so I think the Pacers will benefit off, as well as Tyrese Halliburton will benefit off a trade with Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, they've had him for 2-3 years now, and they haven't really gone anywhere with Malcolm Brogdon. So, but yeah, he's averaged 20 and 10 when he doesn't have Brogdon playing, which is a really nice stat line. It's a limited sample size, but still 20 and 10 in around the 10 games that he's played without Malcolm Brogdon this season is incredible. He does have career averages of 14 points and 7 assists. Not flashy numbers by any means, but his efficiency is amazing. 47% from the field and 41% from the three-point line. So it actually sort of reminds me of a better shooting SGA in a way. They both have these really awkward-looking shots that seem to go in. I do think SGA is a better finisher at the rim than Tyrese Halliburton, but they're both sort of in that same dynamic in that they're both taller and lengthier guards. But yeah, for me, he's going to be a massive target for me in the offseason. I'm already starting to buy a bit more of Tyrese Halliburton. But yeah, in the playoffs and the offseason, I'm going to be massively buying into him. So Tyrese Halliburton for me is a long-term investment. Kira Lewis Jr., pick number 13 from the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm going to have Kira Lewis Jr., unfortunately, in the sell position. He's got career averages of 6 points and 2 assists. Right now, he's currently out with an ACL injury. I don't know too much about him. He wasn't getting too much playing time at the Pelicans, unfortunately, but I feel like he's going to struggle even more so now with CJ McCollum, who's just recently been traded there. And in Kira's position himself, because he's a point guard, he does now have Devontae Graham and Jose Alvarado, who they really love. So I feel like with Kira Lewis coming off an ACL injury, you got two players who are in front of him on the depth chart, and also you've got CJ McCollum at the shooting guard spot. The odds are really stacked against him, so I mean, players are going to miss out on the sole fact that not every player can make it from the draft class. So for me personally, that's why I'm putting him in the sell position, because I feel like the odds are stacked against him, and he doesn't really, he won't have that growth potential just based off the players that are in his spot as well. So I'm having him in the sell position, and let's move on to pick number 14 in Aaron Nesmith. So Aaron Nesmith for me from the Boston Celtics, I'll have him in the sell position as well. Boston have been. Again, Boston have been another team that I've really respected in terms of their decision making in their front office over the past few years. But their drafting over the last 2 years have been a little bit average. They missed out in the previous draft with Romeo Langford. I know they were trying to get Tyler Hero, but they had Romeo Langford and they ended up trading him off for Derek White. Romeo Langford hasn't really shown much as well, so I'm maybe starting to lose a bit of that trust with Boston. I think for me, I trust the Spurs a little bit more when it comes to that sort of stuff. But the only thing with Aaron Nesmith that's a little bit annoying, he's not really getting the playing time at the Boston Celtics. He's got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both in his position, so it's a little bit of a hard one for him to kind of go off. But he does have career averages of 4 points, and he has just over a 40% field goal percentage. So whether he gets a role in the next couple of years that gets boosted a little bit more, it'll be a bit hard because you got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, probably the best young duo in the league at the moment. So yeah, again, odds are stacked against him, and I think it's just a little bit of a hard one for him to kind of make up for that and make him a viable investment. Pick number 15. Now, this one might be a little bit controversial. Cole Anthony. I have Cole Anthony in the hold may have potential category. I know people might have him in the first category, people might have him in the second category. He's not someone I'm personally buying. I can see a market for him, but there are a few things I do have a little bit against him. But career stats and they're great first off the bat at 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Probably the best stat line out of this 11 to 20 range. But on face value, he does look good, but he's playing on a bad team that doesn't have any offense. He's averaging 39% from the field with 34% from the three-point line. And people might laugh at this, but I do see a little bit of a comparison to Devontae Graham. I don't know if many of you guys remember, but Devontae Graham in his second season at the Charlotte Hornets, he averaged 18 points and 7.5 assists. So but it was sort of like the same thing with Cole Anthony at the moment, where he was on a really bad team that didn't really have any offense, and he just shot bulk shots, which allowed him to have a really bad efficiency. So I think it's personally easy for me for you to put up stats when you're the focal point of the team. So I'm watching him with a keen eye, but I'm not going to be investing in him just because I think he can have that sort of drop off in the next couple of years when Orlando probably build up their team a little bit more and his role gets reduced. But like I said, 39% from the field for your whole career, 15 points. It's quite easy in terms of, like I said, being the focal point of your team and averaging that. So might be controversial. I would more have him in the may have potential hold category because his prices are inflated already. And I'm not a massive fan. Pick number 16, Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart. So Isaiah Stewart, last year I would have had him in the short-term category, but I'll now have him in the hold may have potential category. And it's almost bordering sell at the moment. I was really surprised with him because I actually featured him in the rookies that I wanted to purchase last season. I held off, and I was quite lucky in that because his prices have come down a fair bit. But yeah, he's dropped off surprisingly, considering now he's the starting center. Last season he had Mason Plumlee to contend with, but now he's the starting center, and he doesn't seem to have built off that. I kind of thought he'd be like a double-double machine. But yeah, he's been averaging 8 points and 8 assists. Really, by the Detroit Pistons and Troy Weaver, their GM, it was a great value pick considering the card, considering what sort of got picked around this range as well. So Isaiah Stewart was a great value pick. I think his ceiling is more of a backup big man than a starting caliber center. He could be a starting caliber center, but not one that I see a card market for. But yeah, considering the card market for big man, I'm not as high on him anymore, and I thought he would develop a little bit better than what he has so far. Pick number 17, the Unicorn, Alexei Pokusevski. I would have him in the sell category. So Alexei Pokusevski is a player that a lot of people are high on from last season, being the youngest player drafted in his draft class. I think people need to stop kind of looking at the youngest player being drafted from a draft class and thinking that's an automatic, ticket to them having extremely high potential, because we've seen that already with Sekou Doumbouya, and Sekou was the youngest player in his draft class, but even a player like Luka Samanic as well, who was quite similar, a young player that people thought, offensively would develop, but I just saw the other day that Luka Samanic got waived by the New York Knicks. So he's shown some glimpses, but he's also shown some really bad plays. I'm not a fan of it personally, but yeah, career averages of 7.6 points and 5 rebounds on 37% shooting, which isn't great at all. You do have to remember he is on a team where he would get a lot of playing time if he was needed, but the Oklahoma City Thunder haven't really been playing him as much, and they seem to be giving it to other players that they prefer. And even Trey Mann, Aaron Wiggins, all those sorts of players are sort of above him on the depth chart. But yeah, Alexei Pokusevski has sort of been coming off the bench. So I feel like if the Thunder did rate him, and you got Sam Presti, who's one of the smartest GMs out there, you probably would be prioritizing his growth a little bit more. But I feel like just because they have a lot of first round picks, they're sort of just trying to work out what they want to do. But I don't think he's sort of worth the price that he is at the moment. Pick number 18, the Aussie, Josh Green. So I might be a little bit biased. I'm going to put him in the hold may have potential category. Like I said, I'm biased because I'm Australian, but I do think he does bring some solid intangibles to the Dallas Mavericks. I have sort of come to the opinion with Luka that he's someone that doesn't need star teammates. Like, I think for a while now, people think who's the perfect player to sort of pair up with Luka? Who's that perfect number 2 option? But I think he's a player that doesn't need star teammates, but more so really solid role players. And I think that's what Josh Green brings. Very high basketball IQ. He does come off the bench and play great defense. And he's a very good playmaker, actually. I've watched a few highlights of him, and I was actually surprised because with him being in the Aussie team, I didn't actually know too much about his game. He didn't really play too much in his rookie season, but I've watched a few highlights, and I was actually quite impressed. I was like, he can actually sort of play on the ball and play a solid role. But yeah, it'd be more so in the hold man potential category. I don't know what his ceiling would be in terms of his stats, and that's where you kind of have to decipher between yourselves whether he can grow a little bit more. Stats aren't really the greatest. He's averaging just under 5 points a game in his career, but like I said, he had very limited playing time in his first season. Worst case, if you're Aussie, there will always be an Aussie market for him. So I think even if he doesn't work out, his floor will be higher than someone who isn't Aussie with the same skill level. So yeah, I'll have him in the hold man potential category. I do have a little bit of a side PC of him because I love my Aussies and stuff like that, and we're doing quite well in basketball right now. So yeah, I'll have him in the hold may have potential category. Pick number 19, Saddiq Bey from the Detroit Pistons. Another great value pick by Troy Weaver, and yeah, ridiculously good from what they've done in this draft. So I'll have Saddiq Bey in the invest now short-term category. He's another volume shooter like Cole Anthony. But like I said, value pick at pick number 19, averaging 14.4 points and 5.2 rebounds for his career. He has the ability to go on a scoring run. He recently had a 51-point game. I mean, there's a lot of players that have had 50-point games, and you think, there's a list of really bad players that have had 50-point games. Like, I'm not saying they're bad, but like Corey Brewer had 50 points against the Rockets once, but 51 points is no slouch by any means. So really happy there. But yeah, like I said, can be shown to go on a scoring tear. He has been able to average 20 points per game in a solid span of 4 or 5 games. I can see there being a short-term market for him. His efficiency is below average in comparison to, sort of similar to Cole Anthony. His stats are a little bit inflated thanks to a team that doesn't really have any offense in the Detroit Pistons. Jeremy Grant's been injured this season, so he has had a bit of an increased role with increased touches. He had Cade Cunningham, who's quite willing to pass the ball as well. So I think it'll be a really solid future there for the Detroit Pistons. Whether I put money into that, I don't know, but yeah, I think his ceiling is sort of the high teens. But I can see him averaging low 20s in terms of his points, but not really the greatest efficiency. But like I said, for me, I'd have him a little bit higher than Cole Anthony just because he can shoot a bit better, and he's a better shooter from the three-point line than Cole Anthony. So I would invest in that a little bit more than Cole Anthony, personally. So pick number 20, Toronto Raptors, formerly the Miami Heat, Precious Achiuwa. I would have him in the sell category. There's not much to say here other than the fact that he's got career averages of 7 points and 5 rebounds. Ceiling isn't going to be massive considering his play style and the role that he plays, and I really don't see the growth in Precious personally, but I could be proven wrong. But yeah, I think there's just too many players in that team that demand the ball. You've got Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby. There's already 4 players ahead of him that will demand the ball. So I think he's more a role player, if anything like that. So he's not a bad player by any means, but more so someone I'd say is a solid role player, and there's no real card market for that. But those are the picks 11 through 20 through a sports card investing tier list. We'll summarize it with having Tyrese Halliburton in the invest now long-term category. We have Saddiq Bey in the short-term category. We have Devin Vassell, Cole Anthony, Isaiah Stewart, and Josh Green in the hold may have potential category. And for the sell category, I had Kira Lewis Jr., Aaron Nesmith, Alexei Pokusevski, and Precious Achiuwa. But yeah, if you enjoyed that sort of stuff, make sure you do hit the like button and hit subscribe as always. I appreciate you guys checking me out as always, and I'll see you guys all in future videos. Take care.